Kang Dae-ho stared out the small window of the transport ship. Stars filled the black space around them, but they looked different from Earth. Everything felt strange and cold. 6 months ago, aliens had come to Earth. They called themselves the Galactic Defense Coalition. They said humans could join them, but only if they proved themselves worthy. Now Dae-ho was flying to a training station with 4 other humans. All of them were soldiers from Korea. Park Yuna sat next to him, checking her medical supplies for the 10th time. She was smart and had studied space science before becoming a combat medic. Lee Woo-jin worked on some small device he had built. He could fix anything and make weapons from scraps. Kim Sora listened to alien radio signals through her headphones. She was the best at talking to different species. Choi Han-sol cleaned his rifle and counted his explosives. He loved things that went boom. The transport ship shook as it approached the training station. Through the window, Dae-ho saw a massive metal structure floating in space. It was bigger than any building on Earth. Lights blinked along its surface like stars. Other ships moved around it, carrying more trainees from different worlds. "This is it," Yuna said quietly. "Training Station Nexus 7. The ship docked with a loud clang. Air hissed as the doors opened. A tall alien stood waiting for them. It looked like a giant lizard walking on 2 legs. Its scales were dark green and its yellow eyes glowed in the dim light. Sharp teeth showed when it spoke. "I am Commander Veltar of the Velkari," the alien said. Its voice was deep and rough. "You are the humans. I have read about your species, weak, slow, soft skin that tears easily. You will not survive week 1. Dae-ho kept his face calm, but his hand moved closer to his weapon. The other humans stayed quiet too. They had trained for this moment. Commander Veltar turned and walked down a long metal hallway. The humans followed. The walls were covered in strange symbols that glowed blue. The air smelled like metal and something else they could not name. "Your species was chosen because you fight wars constantly," Veltar said as they walked. "But fighting other humans is different from real combat. Here you will face challenges designed for species much stronger than you." They entered a huge room filled with different types of aliens. Some looked like giant insects with 4 arms and hard shell-like skin. Others seemed to be made of pure energy, glowing and shifting shape. There were also massive creatures covered in thick fur and muscle. They all looked at the humans with curiosity or disgust. "Those are Bracken warriors." Veltar pointed to the big furry aliens. "They can lift 10 times more weight than you. The Threx have natural armor and poison claws. The Luminos can become pure energy and pass through walls. The Mindari can read thoughts and control minds." A smaller alien approached them. It looked like a praying mantis, but the size of a human. Its green eyes studied the human team carefully. "I am Instructor Kixhan," it said with a clicking voice. "I will train you in combat, if you live long enough." Dae-ho stepped forward. "We are ready to begin." Kixhan made a sound like laughing, but it was not friendly. "Ready? You do not understand. The training program has a 70% death rate. Most species lose half their team in the first month. Humans have never attempted this program before." "Then we will be the first to succeed," Sora said firmly. More clicking laughter from the alien instructor. "Confidence is good, but confidence does not stop claws or energy weapons. Come, we start immediately." They were led to another room filled with equipment and weapons. The aliens grabbed advanced energy rifles and force shields. The humans looked at the alien technology but chose simpler weapons they understood better. "Your first test begins now," Kixhan announced. "You must survive 72 hours in the hostile environment simulator. It will test your ability to handle extreme conditions, dangerous creatures, and limited resources." A large door opened, showing a dark tunnel beyond. Hot air rushed out, carrying the smell of sulfur and decay. "The environment changes every few hours," Veltar explained. "Sometimes freezing cold, sometimes burning hot. Poisonous gas, acid rain, creatures that hunt in packs. Other trainee teams are in there too. Some may help you. Others will try to kill you for your supplies." Yuna checked her medical kit one more time. Woo-jin gathered some spare parts from the equipment room. Han-sol loaded extra ammunition. Sora tuned her radio to emergency frequencies. "Remember," Dae-ho told his team quietly, "we are not trying to be stronger or faster than them. We are trying to be smarter." They entered the dark tunnel together. The door slammed shut behind them. Immediately, the temperature rose until sweat poured down their faces. Red lights flickered along the walls, and strange sounds echoed from the darkness ahead. "Motion sensors ahead," Woo-jin whispered, studying his small device, and something big moving in the next chamber. The first 72 hours would test everything they had learned as soldiers. But more importantly, it would test their ability to think like humans in a galaxy that did not understand human tactics. As they moved deeper into the simulator, none of them knew that alien instructors were already watching their progress with surprise. The humans were not moving like any species they had seen before. They were being careful, setting traps, and working together in ways that seemed impossible. The real training was just beginning. 3 weeks had passed since the humans arrived at Training Station Nexus 7. Deho watched as another team of Bracken warriors failed their combat exercise. The massive furry aliens were strong and brave, but they always attacked the same way, straightforward, using their natural strength and thick skin to absorb damage. They never learn, Sora said quietly. She was monitoring the alien radio channels again. Same tactics every time. The human team had survived their first trial, but barely. The 72-hour simulator had nearly killed them twice. Once when acid rain started falling, and again when pack hunters surrounded their shelter. But they had made it through by doing things the aliens did not expect. When the acid rain began, other teams tried to find stronger shelter or use energy shields. The humans had torn apart Wu Jin's spare equipment and made simple chemical neutralizers. When the pack hunters attacked, other teams fought them head-on. The humans had set traps and used the creature's own pack hunting instincts against them. Now they faced a new challenge every day. Each test was harder than the last, designed for alien species with natural advantages humans did not have. Today you will attempt the endurance maze, Instructor Kixhan announced to the assembled trainees. It is a 20-kilometer course through shifting terrain. You must carry 50 kilograms of equipment and reach the end within 8 hours. The Bracken team lifted their packs easily. The Threx used their forearms to balance the weight perfectly. The Luminos simply absorbed their equipment into their energy forms. The humans struggled to even pick up their packs. This is impossible. Hansol grunted under the weight. We cannot move fast enough. But Deho was studying the maze entrance. We do not need to be faster. We need to be smarter. While other teams charged into the maze using brute force or special abilities, the humans took a different approach. Wu Jin had noticed something the aliens missed. The maze walls were made of standard construction materials and they had weak points. Here, he said, pulling out a small device he had built from training equipment scraps. The walls are held together with magnetic clamps. If I can create an electromagnetic pulse at the right frequency. The device hummed and clicked. A section of wall shimmered and became transparent. It is not solid, Yuna realized. It is a hologram backed by a weak force field. Instead of running through the maze, the humans began creating shortcuts. They did not break the walls, which would have been cheating. Instead, they found ways to temporarily disable small sections, allowing them to move through more directly. Other teams spent hours running through dead ends and false passages. The humans reached the finish line in 4 hours, carrying their full equipment load. Commander Veltar watched the replay of their performance with confusion. How did they know the wall structure was vulnerable? They study things differently, observed Dr. Kethrin, an alien scientist monitoring the program. Other species see a wall and think about going around it or breaking through it. Humans seem to ask why the wall exists and how it works. The next test was medical training. Each team had to treat wounded members of different alien species. This should have been impossible for humans, since they knew nothing about alien biology. But Yuna surprised everyone. She had been studying the aliens since arrival, not just watching them, but asking questions about their biology and chemistry. When a Threx trainee was injured by an energy weapon, she knew exactly what to do. Their blood is copper-based, not iron-based like ours, she explained as she worked. The wound is not bleeding the same way. I need to use a different type of pressure point. She saved the Threx's life using techniques she had developed by combining human medical knowledge with alien biology. Soon aliens from other teams were asking her for medical help. The weapons training was even more surprising. Han Sol could not use the advanced energy rifles as well as other species. His human hands were too small, and the weapons were designed for different types of beings. But instead of giving up, he began modifying the weapons. If I cannot use their weapons properly, I will make weapons they can use properly, he said. Working late into the night, he created hybrid weapons that combined human explosive knowledge with alien technology. The results were crude but effective. More importantly, aliens began asking him to modify their weapons too. Sora faced the communication challenge. She had to establish contact with a hostile alien species that spoke in electromagnetic pulses instead of sounds. Other teams had failed because they tried to use standard translation equipment. But Sora approached it like a puzzle. She realized that electromagnetic communication was similar to radio signals, something humans understood well. She built a communication bridge using radio equipment and alien technology. For the first time in the program's history, successful contact was made with the hostile species. They were not actually hostile at all. They had been asking for help, but no one could understand them. Wu Jin's engineering challenges grew more complex each day. He was asked to repair alien technology that was completely foreign to human understanding, but he had an advantage other species did not expect. "I do not know how their technology works," he told Daeho one evening, "but I know how things break. And if I know how something breaks, I can usually figure out how to fix it." His repairs were not elegant like alien engineering. They were rough, practical, and sometimes ugly, but they worked, often better than the original designs. The alien instructors began meeting in secret to discuss the human team. "They should not be succeeding," Kixhan insisted. "They are weaker, slower, and have no natural advantages." "But they are succeeding," Veltar replied. "Their methods are unusual." "Unusual is a polite word," Dr. Catherine added. "Their approaches are completely illogical by our standards, yet they achieve results we thought impossible." The human team did not know about these meetings. They were too busy preparing for their next challenge, the Gauntlet. It was a week-long survival course that combined every skill they had learned. Most teams lost at least half their members in the Gauntlet. Some teams refused to attempt it at all. As they prepared their equipment for the trial, Daeho gathered his team. "They expect us to fail," he said quietly. "Every alien here thinks humans are too weak to survive this program? Let us show them what human determination really means." The Gauntlet would begin tomorrow. It would test everything they had learned about surviving in an alien galaxy. More importantly, it would test their ability to work together as humans in a universe that did not understand human thinking. None of them knew that the alien instructors were already placing bets on how quickly the human team would be eliminated. They were about to learn that betting against human stubbornness was a very bad idea. The meeting room buzzed with angry voices. Alien instructors from 12 different species argued loudly while holographic displays showed combat footage. In the center of it all, the human team sat calmly waiting. "This is cheating," growled Commander Veltar, his scales darker than usual. "No species has ever completed the Gauntlet with 0 casualties. It is impossible." Specialist Velmar, a tall gray alien with large black eyes, studied the humans carefully. She had arrived from Coalition headquarters to investigate what they were calling the human anomaly. "Explain your tactics," she said to Daeho. Her voice was quiet but carried authority. Daeho stood up slowly. "We used standard survival techniques. We built shelters, found food and water, avoided dangerous predators, and worked as a team." "Standard?" Kixhan's mandibles clicked angrily. "You turned a combat simulation into a camping trip. You avoided every major fight. Why would we fight when we could win without fighting?" Yuna asked. "The goal was survival, not combat." The aliens looked confused. In their military thinking, survival meant defeating all threats through superior firepower or natural abilities. The humans had survived by making the threats irrelevant. During the Gauntlet, other teams had faced the fire serpents head-on, using energy weapons and armor. Half of them died. The humans had studied the serpents' behavior and realized they only attacked when their nests were threatened. The humans simply walked around the nesting areas. When other teams encountered the acid falls, they tried to run through quickly or use protective shields. The humans had analyzed the chemical composition of the acid and discovered it neutralized when mixed with common soil minerals. They had walked through safely while other teams suffered severe injuries. "Your approach to the Void Maze was particularly creative," Velmar said, checking her notes. "The Void Maze was supposed to be impossible. It was a 3-dimensional labyrinth filled with energy barriers and gravity traps. Teams were expected to navigate through it using advanced technology and natural abilities. The humans had taken one look at the maze and decided to ignore it completely." Wu Jin discovered the maze was an artificial construct, Sora explained. "It required massive amounts of power to maintain. We simply waited." "Waited for what?" Veltar demanded. For the power cells to drain, Wu Jin said matter-of-factly. All technology needs energy. The maze was designed for teams to rush through quickly. We camped outside for 2 days until the energy levels dropped. Then we walked through while the barriers were weakened. The alien instructors exchanged looks. In 200 years of running the program, no team had ever thought to wait out a challenge. This brings us to Scenario Omega, Velmar said, her voice becoming more serious. 847 consecutive failures over 2 centuries. Every known military strategy has been attempted. Elite teams from our most advanced species have tried. All failed. She activated a holographic display showing a massive space battle. Coalition ships faced off against strange dark vessels that seemed to absorb light itself. This is a simulation of our worst defeat, Velmar continued. The Battle of Kepler Station. We lost 12,000 ships and 200,000 lives. The enemy used adaptive tactics that countered every strategy we attempted. Scenario Omega was the ultimate test. Teams had to command a coalition fleet against an enemy that learned and adapted to every move. The simulation was so accurate that military historians used it to study the actual battle. Previous teams have tried overwhelming force, defensive strategies, technological advantages, even desperate kamikaze attacks, Velmar explained. The enemy adapts to everything within minutes. Han Sol raised his hand. What if we do not give them anything to adapt to? Explain. Every strategy we know they can learn and counter, Daeho said, understanding his teammates' thinking. But what if we use no strategy at all? The aliens looked baffled. Military doctrine was everything to them. The idea of fighting without a plan was like trying to breathe without air. We call it organized chaos, Sora added. Each ship does something different, something random. No patterns, no coordination, no predictable responses. That is not tactics, Chixhan protested. That is madness. Exactly, Yuna smiled. How do you adapt to madness? The alien instructor spent 3 hours trying to convince the humans to use proper military strategy. They offered advanced training, access to classified tactical databases, even personal tutoring from Coalition's greatest military minds. The humans politely refused everything. When Scenario Omega began, the alien observers expected to witness the fastest failure in program history. Human ships faced off against the simulated enemy fleet in perfect chaos. One human ship charged straight at the enemy flagship. Another began flying in circles. A third ship started broadcasting music on all frequencies. Han Sol's ship began randomly firing at empty space. Sora's vessel kept changing course every 30 seconds for no apparent reason. The enemy fleet, designed to adapt to logical tactics, tried to find patterns in the human behavior. It analyzed the music broadcast for hidden codes. It tracked the random course changes looking for strategic positioning. It studied the empty space firing for concealed targets, but there were no patterns to find. The humans were genuinely acting without any coordinated plan, while the enemy fleet spent precious time trying to understand human chaos. The randomly charging ship reached the enemy flagship and rammed it. The ship flying in circles accidentally discovered the enemy's sensor blind spot. The vessel firing at empty space hit a cloaked enemy ship by pure luck. In 37 minutes, the human fleet achieved what 847 previous attempts had failed to do. They won. The simulation ended in complete silence. Every alien in the observation room stared at the victory display in shock. How? Veltar whispered. The enemy was programmed to adapt to intelligent tactics, Wu Jin explained. But there is no counter to random stupidity. Sometimes the best strategy is to have no strategy at all. Velmar stood up slowly. I need to contact Coalition headquarters immediately. They must understand what this means. As the humans left the meeting room, they could hear excited alien voices discussing implications and possibilities. They had not just passed a test. They had broken 200 years of military thinking. But their biggest challenge was still coming. Soon they would face real enemies, not simulations. And the galaxy was about to learn that human craziness might be exactly what the Coalition needed to win an impossible war. The final weeks of training would determine if human chaos could work against actual alien threats, or if it would only work in computer simulations. Either way, the galaxy would never look at warfare the same way again. The containment chamber was massive, its walls made of the strongest materials known to the Coalition. Inside, something dark and terrible moved behind energy barriers that could stop a starship. Daeho stared at humanity's greatest test yet, A live void swarm specimen. This is what we have been fighting for 300 years, Belmar explained to the assembled trainees. Her voice was heavy with exhaustion and fear. The void swarm. They have destroyed 17 star systems and killed billions of our people. The creature in the chamber looked like living shadow. It had no fixed shape, constantly shifting between forms. Sometimes it looked like a giant spider, sometimes like a flowing liquid, sometimes like pure darkness with glowing eyes, but always it felt wrong, like something that should not exist. They are a hive mind, Velmar continued. Every individual swarm creature shares knowledge instantly with all others. When one learns your tactics, they all know immediately. When one adapts to your weapons, they all become resistant. Other alien trainees watched the demonstration with visible fear. Even the mighty Bracken warriors stepped back from the containment field. The Threx clicked nervously, and the Luminos dimmed their natural glow. The Crucible is your final test, Commander Veltar announced. You must face live void swarm creatures in combat. Not simulations, real enemies that want to kill you. He activated another display showing previous attempts. Team after team of the Coalition's best warriors had faced the swarm creatures. Most died within minutes. Those who survived usually did so by running away. 60% casualties is considered a successful run, Kixhan added grimly. 80% is normal. Some tests have resulted in complete team elimination. The human team studied the swarm creature carefully. Other teams were already making plans based on their species' strengths. The Bracken would use brute force and thick fur armor. The Threx would rely on their natural carapace and poison claws. The Luminos planned to use their energy forms to avoid physical damage. What do you see? Deho asked his team quietly. It adapts too quickly for any single strategy to work, Yuna observed. But adaptation requires processing time even for a hive mind. The adaptation is its strength, Wu Jin added, but also its weakness. It has to analyze every new threat. What if we give it too many new threats to analyze at once? Sora suggested. Hansol grinned. Overload the system. They spent the next week preparing for the Crucible differently than any team before them. While others practiced their strongest combat techniques, the humans practiced chaos. They deliberately trained in conflicting styles, random movements, and completely unpredictable tactics. Other teams watched them with confusion and disgust. Professional warriors did not train to be sloppy and random, but the humans were not training to be better soldiers. They were training to be impossible to predict. The day of the Crucible arrived. The testing chamber was enormous, filled with obstacles, cover points, and weapon caches. Multiple void swarm creatures moved freely inside, no longer contained. They were hungry and angry. The first team to enter was an elite Bracken squad. They lasted 12 minutes. Their natural strength and armor were impressive, but the swarm creatures adapted quickly. By the end, the creatures were specifically countering every Bracken advantage. The second team was Threx specialists. They managed 18 minutes using coordinated attacks and poison weapons, but again, the swarm learned and adapted. The surviving Threx retreated badly wounded. Other teams achieved similar results. Brave warriors using perfect tactics, defeated by an enemy that learned faster than they could adjust. Then it was humanity's turn. Remember, Deho told his team as they entered the chamber, we are not trying to win. We are trying to drive them crazy. The human team scattered immediately, each moving in a completely different direction. Yuna began running in zigzag patterns while randomly stopping to examine plants. Wu Jin started building something from chamber debris, but kept changing what he was building. Sora began broadcasting random radio signals and noise. Hansol threw explosives seemingly at random with no tactical purpose. The void swarm creatures tried to analyze the human behavior. But there was no behavior to analyze. Every human was doing something different and none of it made tactical sense. One swarm creature approached Yuna. She pulled out her medical kit and tried to give it first aid. The creature paused, completely confused. Its hive mind had no programming for enemies that tried to heal their attackers. Another creature cornered Wu Jin. He offered it a crude sculpture he had made from metal scraps. The creature studied the object, trying to determine if it was a weapon or trap. It was neither. It was just garbage shaped like a flower. Sora started playing music and tried to teach a swarm creature how to dance. Hansol began randomly hugging surprised creatures while complimenting their terrifying appearance. The alien observers watched in horror and amazement. The humans seemed to have lost their minds completely. But somehow they were not dying. What are they doing? Veltar demanded. I think, Velmar said slowly, they are confusing the hive mind. The Void Swarm creatures were designed to analyze threats and adapt to defeat them. But the humans were not acting like threats. They were acting like they were having a party with deadly monsters. The hive mind tried to process this behavior. Were the humans using some unknown psychological warfare? Was the medical treatment a form of biological attack? Were the random explosions actually a complex pattern too advanced to understand? While the swarm creatures stood still trying to analyze impossible behavior, the humans began implementing their real plan. Now, Deho called out. Suddenly, all the random behavior became coordinated chaos. Yuna's zigzag running had led creatures into Wu Jin's improvised traps. Zora's random radio signals activated hidden devices. Han Sol's scattered explosives created a perfect pattern of destruction. But even as the plan worked, each human continued acting randomly. The moment a swarm creature began to adapt to one tactic, that human would switch to something completely different and nonsensical. The hive mind overloaded. It could not process random kindness, tactical dancing, explosive hugging, and musical medical treatment all at the same time. The creatures began moving sluggishly, their shared intelligence struggling to function. In 43 minutes, the human team achieved what no coalition force had ever accomplished. They did not just survive the Void Swarm creatures. They defeated them completely. The chamber fell silent except for the sound of confused alien breathing and Yuna humming, while she bandaged an unconscious swarm creature. Impossible, Kixhan whispered. Not impossible, Deho corrected. Just human. As they left the chamber, the alien instructors began to understand something important. Human craziness was not a weakness or an accident. It was a weapon that could break enemies specifically designed to be unbeatable. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the best way to fight an adaptive enemy was to become completely unadaptable yourself. And humans, it turned out, were very good at being impossible to understand. The graduation ceremony hall was filled with aliens from across the galaxy. Deho had never seen so many different species in one place. Some floated in gas-filled chambers, others needed special gravity fields to stand upright. All of them were staring at the 5 humans standing on the platform. Today marks a historic moment, announced Admiral Kexathera, the Coalition's supreme military commander. She was a massive creature with 4 arms and crystal-like skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. For the first time in Coalition history, we graduate a species that has achieved perfect scores in all training categories. Whispers filled the hall. Perfect scores were considered impossible. The program was designed so that even the most elite warriors would fail some tests. But before we continue, the Admiral said, there are things you must know about why you are here. The hall fell silent. Velmar stepped forward, looking tired and worried. The Coalition has been losing the war against the Void Swarm for 3 centuries, she began. We estimate we have perhaps 50 years before they overrun our remaining defenses. Maybe less. Holographic displays showed star maps with large dark areas spreading like infection across the galaxy. Entire sectors marked as swarm territory, or lost. Our military doctrine is based on logic, strategy, and predictable tactics, Velmar continued. These have served us well against conventional enemies. But the Void Swarm learns from everything we do. Every victory teaches them how to defeat us next time. Admiral Kexathara activated another display showing Coalition military academies. We have the finest warriors in the galaxy, brilliant strategists, advanced technology, superior numbers. But we are losing because we think in patterns the swarm can understand and counter. Deho began to understand where this was leading. 3 years ago, our scientists identified what we called chaotic species, the Admiral explained. Races whose thinking patterns are fundamentally unpredictable. Most chaotic species destroy themselves before reaching space travel. But occasionally, one survives and develops advanced technology while maintaining their chaotic nature. You were looking for humans specifically, Yuna realized. Not humans specifically, but species like humans, Velmar confirmed. We studied your history. Thousands of years of constant warfare, but also art, music, literature, and scientific breakthroughs. You fight wars and create beauty simultaneously. You are logical and illogical at the same time. Sora nodded slowly. You needed species that think like humans think. The training program was not just to see if you could survive, Admiral Kexathara revealed. It was to see if your chaotic thinking could be weaponized against an adaptive enemy. Commander Veltar stepped forward. His expression was different now, showing respect instead of contempt. In 6 months, you have changed how we understand warfare. Coalition military academies are already studying your techniques. Techniques? Han Sol laughed. We were just being human. Exactly, Kix-Han said. That is why it works. You cannot teach other species to think like humans, but you can teach them to work with humans. The Admiral gestured to other aliens in the hall. Representatives from 200 coalition worlds are here today. They all want human tactical advisors assigned to their fleets. Wu Jin looked around at all the aliens staring at them. What exactly are you asking us to do? We are offering you immediate deployment as Chaos Specialists, Admiral Kexathera announced. You will be attached to coalition fleets facing Void Swarm incursions. Your job will be to introduce unpredictable elements that the swarm cannot adapt to quickly enough. And if we refuse? Deho asked. Then the galaxy will probably fall to the Void Swarm within 50 years, Velmar said simply. But the choice is yours. You have already proven everything we hoped for. The human team looked at each other. They had signed up for a training program. Now they were being asked to help save the galaxy. Will other humans join the program? Yuna asked. If you succeed in actual combat, we plan to recruit thousands, the Admiral confirmed. Human chaos doctrine could become the foundation of a new coalition military strategy. Deho thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had no idea their planet was part of a galactic war. If humans could help end this conflict, they had a responsibility to try. We accept, he said firmly. But we want to help design the human recruitment program, and we want other humans to understand what they are really volunteering for. Agreed, Admiral Kexathera said immediately. The graduation ceremony concluded with the humans receiving their new rank insignia, 5 pointed stars that represented Chaos Specialists. No other coalition species had ever earned this designation. As aliens began approaching them with requests and offers, Velmar pulled the team aside privately. There is something else you should know, she said quietly. This training station is not really a training station. The humans stared at her. It is a coalition warship, she continued, the CS Nexus. We are already traveling toward the front lines. Your first mission begins in 72 hours. You mean? Sora started. The graduation ceremony was actually your deployment ceremony, Velmar confirmed. There is a Void Swarm incursion threatening the Kepler system, the same system where we suffered our worst defeat 300 years ago. Deho looked out the nearest window. The stars were moving, indicating they were in hyperspace travel. Coalition Command wants to see if human chaos tactics work against a full swarm fleet, Velmar explained. Not just individual creatures, in a controlled environment, but thousands of swarm ships working together. Han Sol grinned. So no pressure at all. None whatsoever, Velmar said dryly. Just the fate of an entire star system, and possibly the galaxy. As they prepared for their first real mission, the humans began to understand the true scope of what they had gotten into. They were no longer trainees learning alien ways. They were human weapons in a galactic war, carrying the hopes of hundreds of species. But they were still human. And being human, they began planning their approach to the Kepler incursion the same way they had approached every challenge in the training program. So, Deho said as they studied intelligence reports about the swarm fleet, how do we introduce chaos to a space battle? Wu Jin started sketching modifications to coalition starships. Yuna began studying swarm biology for psychological warfare opportunities. Sora worked on communication systems that could broadcast confusion instead of information. Han Sol calculated explosive yields for weapons that would make no tactical sense. The galaxy was about to learn that human chaos was not limited to individual combat. When humans brought their organized insanity to fleet warfare, even the Void Swarm might discover there were some things too crazy to adapt to. In 72 hours, the CS Nexus would arrive at Kepler system. The real test would begin then.